Greetings! In today's video, I am going to showcase a few of the planes that I built since the airborne update has launched. And I am planning to discuss the impact that the new pieces have had on building planes, mostly. I guess in chronological order, the first plane I built since the update hit is this F4U Corsair. It is definitely better than the older one, a lot better. It's a lot faster, and it benefits immensely from the new pieces added in the updates. The lack of necessity to add hinges onto your tail fins, for example, or onto the edges of your wings has made building this plane extremely easy, and it achieves a better aesthetic and performance result than the old one for less time investment and less skill investment, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Additionally, the guns are much more effective because they actually track onto your targets. They're a little bit cumbersome, but there's definitely ways to hide that, as I will showcase later on. However, all in all, I am quite happy with this design. The second plane I made since the update is very similar. It's a Japanese Zero. I'm very fond of the paint job on this thing. It handles just as well as the Corsair does, and I have indeed piston glitched the guns into the wings so they hide a little bit better. It's easier to do on this one, of course, because it doesn't have the very particularly shaped wings that the Corsair does. All in all, very similar design and very similar result, and very similar high performance from this. It maintains its speed in a turn. It doesn't lose all of its energy while turning. It achieves very high top speed as well, thanks to the drag glitch. And all in all, performs quite well, especially thanks to the new pieces, because, well, on older versions I would have absolutely not been able to add ailerons onto the wings or control surfaces onto the wings, and now thanks to the new pieces I can, therefore making the wings and the tail cooperate, and additionally making the tail a lot lighter because it doesn't need to have hinges or steering or rotating servos in it. It all contributes to having an excellent result. Next, I will showcase this Eurofighter Typhoon. This design also benefits immensely from the new update pieces, as for me specifically, it was incredibly difficult to design delta-shaped wings because the stability on the rear end would suffer immensely. This is an extremely unstable shape of wing, which is exactly why the designers of the Typhoon and of the other delta wing shaped planes, they chose this design because it's extremely unstable, therefore affording the plane extremely high low speed maneuverability. This essentially means the airframe will attempt to fight your efforts to stabilize it. This instead, thanks to the update, has the 4 flaps in the back. Those stabilizers are extremely effective and work very well, not just to stabilize the aircraft, but for its control surfaces as well. The canards in the front obviously help a lot with that, and the enormous vertical stabilizer in the back helps with stability as well. Another particular that I have added onto this plane is its thruster nozzles that expand and contract depending on what speed you are going at, to simulate how a real thruster nozzle would compress or expand to modify the power output of the engine. The fourth aircraft that I will showcase is this gripen. It's got a very interesting paint job that I found on a gripen on the internet and tried to emulate. Again, it has the reactive thruster nozzle. Its wing shape and wing configuration is very similar to the Eurofighter, and it indeed has the canards in the front helping it out. It's a plane that I'm quite happy with, especially on the aesthetic front, and, well, the canards allow it to dogfight extremely effectively. Even at very low speeds, it has very high nose authority. The second last plane that I will showcase is this Sukhoi 35. It's a plane I'm very happy with in its paint job, aesthetics, and performance. It's not the most maneuverable because it is very large and heavy. However, it does achieve very high speeds and high enough maneuverability at low speeds, which makes it quite deadly. It's also the first plane that I've added rockets onto, I believe. It has rockets and guns. I always hesitate to add rockets to planes because not only are they quite heavy and cumbersome, they tend to make fights, or they tend to make engagements a lot less fun because they blow everything up very quickly, and so everything ends very quickly. And I enjoy fighting enemies for longer periods of time. Regardless, the most interesting feature of this plane is its ability to activate its vector thrust, which allows it to gain extremely high maneuverability at lower speeds and extremely high nose authority, similar to the Gripen and Eurofighter, except without the use of canards in the front, simply through vectoring its thrusters. Other than that, it's quite a straightforward plane. And the final build for today is going to be the F-14 Tomcat. The core components are rather similar to the Sukhoi that I just showcased. However, I am much happier with the result of this one because of how complex it is to achieve the specific features of the Tomcat without trailmakers glitching out and making a fuss. So the Tomcat has two particular features other than its guns, its rockets. It can sweep its wings in, which does indeed give it an extra 150 or so kilometers an hour top speed. And the reason this is interesting is because the way I achieved it is I essentially had to glitch the wings into part of the body so that they would fold in completely, which means that I had to play with the attachment points on the inside of the body that would allow the wings to glitch in without breaking everything. Yeah, I am very happy with this result. Extremely satisfied. It's very fun. The other interesting feature that I added onto this Tomcat is its ability to split throttle and have differential thrust, which means that I can turn off half of its engines on one side, well, half of the total engines, which means all of the engines on one side are turned off, which allows it to essentially have yaw capability, because it will create a torque on the horizontal plane towards the center of the plane, allowing for yaw, which gives it not nearly as much maneuverability as vector thrust does, the Sukhoi, but it is quite helpful in dogfights where you seem to be outmatched in maneuverability. It can give the edge over enemies that are either not expecting the nose to turn that much, or essentially underestimating your maneuverability. I have to be very careful when using this function because it does turn half the engines off, therefore the loss of speed and loss of energy state is very high. It has to be activated only when up high in order to not immediately fall into the water, and it has to be used intelligently, almost sparingly even, because otherwise you just end up slow and vulnerable to anything with higher acceleration. Other than that, I am very happy with this build, as I am with the Sukhoi, and yeah. And there you go. This has been a showcase of the planes that I have made since the airborne update has dropped, and of how I have integrated a lot of the new blocks into my building style. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I will see you in the future.